Let's talk about the University of Texas, Caden Sterns, Josh Thompson, Brennan Eagles, Tom Herman, and what's going on with the quote-unquote list of demands as well as the eyes of Texas. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to give some air to this conversation around the University of Texas' football program and what its black football players, particularly some starters and some names that you know, have decided they are going to take a stand for. At a time when the Black Lives Matter moment is robust and we are seeing athletes take a stand for the things that they believe and the things that they do not believe. And when Texas, after Tom Herman talks at length about what he feels for his black players and how he thinks that we can better understand them, we being white folks, because I feel like I'm there. I thought it was really interesting that he empowered his players, right? Because it's one thing to say, I stand with them. It's another thing to say, one, I will protect them and I will empower them to use their voice and to use their name and likeness and image to try to further a conversation around social justice and what they believe. This is at a campus where just 4.6% of the student body is black, but there are a bunch of them on the football team, right? So while the things that they list are robust, and I think there's one that should be getting a lot more play that isn't, the one that is getting play is about the eyes of Texas. We're going to get back to that, but to really catch everybody up on this thing, Josh Thompson, Caden Sterns, a couple others released a statement of things that they would like to see changed at the University of Texas and what they are willing to concede and do until they get some sort of change from the university. So check it. The list includes renaming several buildings on campus, including Robert Lee Moore Hall, Painter Hall, Littlefield Hall, and James Hogg Auditorium, replacing campus statues with other more diverse ones created by people of color, the building of a permanent black athlete history exhibit in the UT Athletics Hall of Fame. I think that one is very important. Donating 0.5% of the athletics department's annual earnings to black organizations and the BLM movement. Texas made more money than any other athletic program in the country last year at over $200 million. So just using $200 million as an example, that's $1 million that they would ask the University of to really invest in black organizations and the BLM. That's not a small amount of money. Renaming an area of Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium after Julius Whittier, who was the first black player to letter at UT in 1970. And then replacing the eyes of Texas as the school's alma mater with a new song without racist undertones, while lifting the requirement for players to sing the songs after games, right? And the statement that they released adds that while players will continue to practice and prepare for the upcoming season, in quotes, without an official commitment from the university, we will not be participating in the recruiting of incoming players or donor-related events. I think both of those are, well, huge because Texas needs to be able to recruit and they're asked to participate in some of these donor events where you get big money to support the program. However, they're not prepared in some cases, Brennan Eagles will see, to stop practicing to get these things. I understand where they're coming from. I really do. But so that everybody can catch up on what this thing is with the eyes of Texas, I'm going to drop a video here that is going to catch you up pretty quick.
What's interesting about the Texas Cowboys is that they were a key social group on campus for many, many years. And they ran one of the key social events every year, which was in association with Roundup every spring. They did a variety show, which they ran, and which actually was run in the format of a minstrel show. Somewhere between 50 and 60 Texas Cowboys every year put on blackface and did minstrelsy, kind of satirical and comical variety show that they put on every year in blackface. This minstrel tradition was very strong at the University of Texas, and it's actually the origins of another key aspect of Texas heritage. if you remember, we said that Robert E. Lee, when he talked to his students at Washington and Lee University, would end each one of his presentations by saying, "The eyes of the South are upon you." Well, there was a president of the University of Texas who adapted that to Texas, and at the end of all his presentations to faculty and staff would say that the eyes of Texas are upon you. And contemporarily, we use the hook'em horns and sing a song called "The Eyes of Texas Are Upon You." It's a satirical, students developed a satirical rendition of "I've Been Working on the Railroad," or to the tune of "I've Been Working on the Railroad," to satirize the president and other aspects of the University of Texas. And therefore, that's how you get "The Eyes of Texas Are Upon You." So the eyes of Texas are upon you are a take on Robert E. Lee's famous words of "the eyes of the South are upon you." And this is a satirical song which was sung originally and for many, many years as part of minstrel shows. So it's a minstrel song that was sung in blackface by folks. So it's another key part of Texas history, racial history, which is kind of embedded in the architecture and geography of this place, particularly here in the pavilion, in which you can see the names of these folks.
So you can see from that video that the eyes of Texas in and of itself is not inherently racist. I feel like we would have picked that out in 1903 when they started singing the thing. But minstrel shows are, right? And this knowledge I still don't know what to do with, but Earl Campbell was a member of the Texas Cowboys. Now you have that knowledge too. However, I think that it's important to really underscore here the reason that folks are offended by the eyes of Texas is because it is really comes out of the origin of Robert E. Lee, who, was the general for the Confederacy and fought to enslave black folks. That's what he fought for. The Confederacy lasted for 4 years, and yet people still want to glorify it for whatever reason, and how it would keep down what is a minority population. Minority is a number. It is not a color. And these black players are part of that minority at University of Texas, where, again, less than 5% of the population is black. Even as the University of Texas is the flagship of the state of Texas, it is tremendously hard to get into. And it is also a place where we've had more than one racially charged incident after another throughout its history. As a matter of fact, the Texas Cowboys used to sing that song and put on those minstrel shows all the way up until 1965, right? This is at a time when University of Kentucky is getting ready to integrate in 1966 with its football team, and you see that that's starting to take over in the South, even as we'd had black players at places like Notre Dame, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State and Michigan had black players letter in the 19th century. That's how far ahead of this they were. And for those of you that always wonder, why does RJ have an Ohio State bent? That matters to me. It matters tremendously to me that not only did they have a black player in 1891, but that the founding father of FAMU football is a graduate of both the undergrad and graduate program at Ohio State University, despite some of its more racist past dealings, which we'll get into at another point, I assure you. But I wanted to focus on Texas here because Texas is such a brand, right? Texas is a tremendous brand. And Caden Sterns is one of the best defensive backs in the country when he is healthy. We all know that other guys like Anthony Cook's not going to play this year. And I thought, man, for real? And yet, we're still here talking about Black Lives Matter, and we're talking about how the athletes are really trying to use their platform for things that they believe in. And that's not going to come without some price being paid, both on the part of white folks and on the part of black folks. Because what gets forgotten about Tommy Smith and John Carlos raising their fist at the 1968 Mexico Olympics is what happened next, which is they were ostracized. They were blackballed. Men that had gone first and second in the sprints for their country were blackballed. It's not unlike when black men went to war in World War II and came home to Jim Crow, came home to segregation, came home to, hey, you're going to pay this poll tax to go vote. We're maligned and treated poorly. Hell, at Grambling, black folks had to serve Nazis at the internment camps. I mean, this continues to go on in the way that black folks have been treated in this country, and that's one of the reasons that we are all of a mind here. And if you haven't had chance to go watch Dave Chappelle's 846, I encourage you to do so. The stories that he is telling matter, but they only matter if you want to listen, you want to reach. If you want to come into the comments and yell, cool. I mean, that's what this country is for. Know that we're probably going to yell back and nothing gets done there. But I also understand why this conversation needs to continue to go on, even as it's getting to be acerbic to some. I want to engage in it, and I want to engage in it in a smart and meaningful way. But anything at this point that feels like it reminds us of a racist past, yeah, it needs to go. It does not serve the purpose of creating a more diverse and integrated society. Even as you would want to argue for history's sake, or you would want to argue for tradition's sake. Hey, some traditions are stupid. Some history is stupid. Some things do not need to be remembered. Not in that way. Or they need to be remembered. They don't need to be glorified. They don't need to be made into monuments. And I didn't know that The Eyes of Texas was a song that players were made to sing after the game. And it hadn't occurred to me that you would make somebody sing a fight song. It just didn't occur to me. You would want to sing a fight song or you don't, right? I just thought that that was a really interesting point to make. And I would add here, the stories that the kids are telling are not just true, they are ingrained. They are in their skulls. To pick to play at the University of Texas as a football player is to pick, really at any predominantly white institution, is to pick not a side, but to choose to engage in a conversation that is continuing to go on and has gone on basically since 1954 with Brown v. Board of Education about how are we doing this and how should we be doing this. Because I submit to you, most major universities that you know of all have some sort of racist past to them. They all have a black eye to them. But to continue to trot those things out as tradition is wrong. It's wrong. University of Oklahoma has had its own run-ins, right? And yet what I have been most proud of is how head coaches have stood with their players, have come to understand that, yeah, them being black is a part of their character. I hate when people say they don't see color. I need you to see my color. I need you to see their colors. Know that my being black is a part of my character. Those stories matter. Those stories that I remember, those stories that we tell, those stories of overcoming oppression. And that black is about a diaspora of folks of African descent who are not African. We are American. You know, I have these conversations with folks who can trace their lineage back to like the 12th century and the 13th century. And I get asked, you know, RJ, who were your descendants? I say they were slaves. That's the long and the short of it. I'm envious of someone who can count past their great-grandfather, who they are, know where their name comes from. Even my name, right? Young. It's not an African name. It's an American name. To know that I am black and to agree that I am black and to show that you understand and that you're listening, that you're participating in those stories is what we're asking for. It's what I'm asking for. I love college football, which makes me kind of oxymoronic in this, right? Because it's contradictory. But to be a black American feels contradictory. It shouldn't. Removing the Eyes of Texas, investing in your black population and your black players isn't either. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.